Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing today on this Friday evening, 6:30 p.m. Eastern? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Today's my birthday, and I couldn't think of a better gift than being on the Harvey Hour.
Yeah, happy birthday. I told you that earlier, so you already know that.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you being here on your birthday. I did say if you wanted to, I would gift you the day off.
What? This is the best gift I could get. Be on here with you, talk sports.
Yeah.
Lots of exciting stuff to talk about now, too.
We got the first round of the draft has concluded. Some strange, very, very strange and obscure picks. We'll jump into that. The second round of the NBA playoffs starts up this weekend. So even though 2 Game 6s are tonight, we will be making our picks at least for the end of the end of this first playoff series. Even though I have Kings in 5, we'll talk about that later. You have Lakers in 7 still. We're going to talk about that. Get into the second round. But let's start with our first topic. So yesterday, before the draft, there was some breaking news. Lamar Jackson has signed an extension with the Baltimore Ravens, making him the highest paid player in the NFL. Now, this comes a little bit after Jalen Hurts signed what back then was the biggest contract in NFL history, which was 5 years, $255, with $179 million guaranteed. Now Lamar Jackson signs a deal, $260 million with $185 million guaranteed. Now it's not the 230 plus he was hoping for.
Well, that was outrageous. Yeah.
But it is 185 million. I'm actually surprised a little bit that it's actually less than Kyler Murray, so I'm actually a little bit surprised he would take that deal. But this little Lamar Jackson saga has finally come to a close. So I want to start with you. Did the Ravens make the right decision in making Lamar now the highest paid player in NFL history?
Well, he's the highest paid player by just a little bit.
Right.
So I think they did the right thing. They allowed Lamar to save face. He can now say he's the highest paid player in the NFL. Might not last that long, but right now he is. So he signed the deal. And, the $185 million guaranteed money is nothing to sniff at. I mean, that's pretty big money. So I'd say he made out pretty well given how bad he was managing the process up until now. So I think it worked out well for both parties, actually.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Lamar got his big payday, and the Ravens get to keep their, when healthy, in my opinion, top 3 quarterback in the NFL in a much harder AFC with Aaron Rodgers coming over now.
Plus, now Lamar gets a better receiver. He's got OBJ there.
He's got OBJ.
Yeah, he got that. He asked for that.
They drafted Zay Flowers last night. So, I mean, right now they're building up weapons. And the question is that I brought up to my brother, who I talked to throughout the entire draft last night, is what are people going to say now if Lamar does not look MVP level or look all that great next year with OBJ, with Zay Flowers? Are they going to say, oh, Zay Flowers is a rookie, he isn't very good? Are they going to say, oh, OBJ is washed? Are they just going to keep making excuses? Because before it was... And the crazy thing is, I don't understand why this excuse was even made, that, Lamar has no weapons, he can't win, there's no weapons when he does poorly, but then, yet, he's like over 70% win percentage with those no weapons, with the terrible weapons. So clearly he's still able to win with no weapons, it's just when he loses, that's the excuse you get, not the fact... For instance, last year, there were a number of games, I believe against the Giants was a perfect example, the Jaguars even as well, where Lamar Jackson makes a mistake late in the game that cost his team the game. It's not that he doesn't have any receivers, that at the time, Lamar Jackson was just a bad quarterback.
Well,
he made one bad mistake.
Well, it looks like his receiver core is going to be upgraded now.
I agree.
So,
but what's the excuse
they'll probably
gonna
try
be?
to pass the ball a little bit more. We'll really see whether he can do it or not, right?
I would assume so. I don't think Lamar Jackson has the toughest arm, especially in the AFC. I don't think his arm stacks up against like a Josh Allen, a Mahomes, a Herbert, a Tua. He got outthrown by Tua in a head-to-head matchup. Lost. Tua outthrew him, especially in the fourth quarter. Trevor Lawrence, I think, has a stronger arm. You can list all these quarterbacks in the AFC alone, not even including Jalen Hurts. Dak Prescott's got a rocket.
Yeah. Well, he makes up for some of that with his athleticism and his ability to run.
No, I agree there. But Now, before it was the 3-year 133 fully guaranteed. That was the deal.
Well, this
that
is a
came
much
up.
better deal
Now
he's
this
got
is
now
5
for
years,
him.
260, which that is a bunch of money now. So Lamar's got his big payday. Now the deal originally APY was 250. The total value, which is what we compared it to when we talked about Jalen Hurts' contract, was his total value of a contract was 250 million. This is now 260. Now, originally it was 133 fully guaranteed for 3 years, but could have been up to 200 with a springing and injury guarantee.
Right.
Now this is 185 million guaranteed, but I don't think it has all that weird
stuff in it,
terminology and just a bunch of nonsense.
I think Lamar got a better deal than it was offered before.
Right.
And the Ravens can save face giving it to him because Hurts' deal is similar.
Right, and I think Hurts' deal was actually very important in this because while at the time Jalen Hurts was the highest paid player, he didn't absolutely destroy the quarterback market. Like Deshaun Watson's deal made no sense. I don't think anyone in a very, very long time is going to make as stupid as an offer as the Deshaun Watson contract. That made no sense. 230 fully guaranteed for 5 years for a player who's coming off of serious allegations. It's just because it's the Cleveland Clowns, and I think they were just extremely desperate to get a quarterback. No one's going to do that. So Jalen Hurts did set a quarterback market of $51 million per year. Now you bring it in. You have that little precedent right there. You could sort of match it or build around it, and that's exactly what the Ravens did. $1 million more per year, so it's $52 million a year. You sign him up. He's there for 5 years, and I think the important thing is you're gonna look at the first 3 years here, because if Lamar does not play all that well, you would have to obviously see how the cap hit breaks down. You potentially have outs late in the contract if he's not all that good. Now I assume obviously he will be, because it's Lamar Jackson.
I mean, it's really a 3-year contract for $185 million.
It's going to be important to see the first 3 years, and then we'll see after the 3 years whether or not the cap hit is bad, or
that protects the Ravens a little bit from him running around and getting hurt again, right?
Right. It does save the Ravens a little bit. My concern is the same concern I've had since prior to last year. Is Lamar going to be available when you need him? Because I brought this stat up before. There have been 12 games in December and January that Lamar could have played in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and
he's played in a singular one of them. Now, Lamar is a great quarterback and can get you to the playoffs. He, in the past 2 years, just hasn't been available when you need him the most in the playoffs. So Lamar actually, towards the end, I think that was part of the Ravens' concern. Like, yeah, you got us to the playoffs, but you weren't available then. But you know what? Now maybe we'll see him. He trusts the Ravens a little bit more. He's got his big guarantee money. Now hopefully he'll be available. We're 3 years, going on now almost 4 years removed from him winning an MVP.
His mother should be happy.
I'm sure all of them are happy.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have to pay an agent for that either.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he didn't have to pay any agent fees.
3%.
Yeah, so...
Or less.
Yeah, or less. So Lamar got his money. I'm sure him and his mom and anyone else who worked with him is very happy.
Yeah.
I want to see now Lamar gets on the field, because we see this a lot. With certain types of players, doesn't matter who it is, what position, when they get the big money, there's regression in their play. Receivers have done it. Running backs have done it. A perfect example of a running back was Ezekiel Elliott. It was never the same after the Cowboys paid him like the largest running back contract in NFL history. Quarterbacks have done it. We see Kyler Murray take a huge step back this past year when he got his big money.
He got hurt,
but even before then, he did not look great. He was at the bottom of his division for like the first after week 3, he was at the very bottom.
Well, look at Deshaun Watson. He played terrible when he came back.
Well, he had a little bit of rust. So we'll see. I think this year will be a good indication of how Deshaun Watson will turn out. But we're taking a look here. Lamar got paid. I want to see if there's regression or if he keeps it, or if he keeps his MVP quality up. Because last year he started, his numbers were better than his MVP year, and then he did have a little bit of a decline midway through the year. And so we'll see.
My guess is he'll play up to his contract. That's my bet. We'll see.
I mean, I think he has to, because I think then you look at the end of 3 years.
He's going to be well rested. He hasn't played for quite a long time.
Hasn't played. Exactly. So we will see. Lamar signs 5 years, $260 million, $185 fully guaranteed, or I guess guaranteed, which, once again, I'm surprised he actually took it, because it's less than Kyler Murray's guarantee. Kyler Murray, I think, is $189.5.
I think he was focused on the 260.
He very well could be.
I think he probably feels like he'll make it 5 years, and
Right.
And also the honor of being the highest paid player in the NFL. I think that
I
had
think
a
that's a
factor.
good point.
Both sides save face with that, right?
Yeah.
Both the Ravens and Lamar.
Right. So good for Lamar.
I'll be interested to hear what Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp say about it. They were all over the place in their analysis of this. They thought that Lamar would come back and play on the franchise tag. So
it just didn't make sense for him to do that.
So he wouldn't have been happy, and the Ravens knew it. They were lucky that the Hurts got his deal.
Right.
I think that softened Lamar up a little bit. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. All right. Let's move on to our next topic here. So, what did we say, and what did no one else really say about the New York
Nobody
Knicks?
thought the Knicks were going to win.
No one thought the Knicks were going to win at the beginning of the series.
Nobody picked them, but us, both of us.
You had some Knicks fans on ESPN like Stephen A. Smith, obviously, who picked them. But for the bettors, the betting world, Vegas, everyone, and especially my comments section, it was filled with Cavs fans. So when I said out here that the Knicks after game 1 would crush the Cleveland Cavaliers, my comments section blew up with saying how crazy we are and how we do not deserve to be on the mic, or at least we need to understand common sense before we talk into a microphone.
Yeah, well, I thought it would go. Actually, I thought it would go more games than it did wound up going.
I think you said Knicks in 7.
Yeah, and they wound up in 6.
Lo and behold, the Knicks win in 5. They won 2 on the road, won 2 at home, and they won in very convincing fashion. This is the first advance to the semifinals since 2013, in a decade. It's been 10 years since the Knicks have won a playoff series. And now they did it in a very convincing fashion against the number 1 defense, against the guy who they wanted in the offseason in Donovan Mitchell. And they showed up. Josh Hart was on lockdown. RJ Barrett was big in this game. So I want to know, big in the series, actually, late in the series. So I want to ask you, based on what you've seen over the 5 games versus Cleveland, could this just be the start of a deep playoff run for the New York Knicks?
I think they're going to win the next round. I really do. They're playing Miami.
Right.
Right? They're lucky. They're playing Miami, right?
Yeah.
They could have drawn a harder seed there. They got, if Milwaukee had won, it'd be a totally different picture, I think. But I'm pretty sure the Knicks can beat Miami.
I think so as well.
And I think a couple other things that I took away from the Cavaliers series. The Knicks can win when they don't have all their best players.
Okay.
Right? You saw Julius Randle was hurt. He sprained his ankle.
Right.
He's out. They didn't seem to skip a beat. They're still playing great. And there's been times during the year when who's the guard, the great guard now?
Jalen Brunson?
Yeah, Jalen Brunson. I can't believe I can remember his name. He was out, and they quickly stepped up. I think they're very well coached. I found Thibodeau to be a great coach. So that the mix and match there. They have Obi Toppin on the bench. I think he could be starting for many other teams. And they give him some minutes. He comes in and gives them some energy. So I like the chemistry. And I like the fact that they play some defense, They do play pretty good defense, and that's something that could take them even further because not many other teams are playing much defense. And Tom Thibodeau is a defensive-minded coach. I think he's done a great job, and I think the front office did a pretty good job too, bringing in Josh Hart, bringing in Jalen Brunson, right? Sticking with the big guy.
Julius Randle.
Sticking with Julius Randle. Barrett is playing better. So I like them. I think they got a good chance to I think they're going to win this series. I really do. The one with Miami.
I would agree with you. I said after game 2, RJ Barrett scored 14 in game 2. I said it's not Jalen Brunson and it's not Julius Randle that are going to be the X factor of the New York Knicks. Because Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, they'll get at least 20, and that'll be that. Just like how I assumed Donovan Mitchell would just get, whatever, he'll score however many points he could score in a night. Now, that wasn't the case late because he scored 11 in, I believe, game 4.
Yeah, he didn't play well in one of those games.
He didn't play very well.
And he got hurt in one of those games.
Yes. But lo and behold, I think I feel vindicated because RJ Barrett was a huge factor in why they won the last 2 games. He scored 26 in game 4, shooting 50% from the floor, and he didn't get discouraged when he shot 0 for 6 from 3. He shot 9 of 18 from the floor, scored 26 points. Also in this game, he scored 21, shooting 50% from 3. So he has these games where he could start shooting threes, and there were 2 games in this series where he did shoot 50% from 3, and it was game 3 and game 5. RJ Barrett was a huge factor in the last 3 games. And that's why I said he needed to be the X factor of this team, because Jalen Brunson, he'll do whatever he can to win for this team. Julius Randle, before he got hurt, was a huge factor in the game, rebounding, getting those buckets. So he was a huge factor, and I thought, you know what, he'll get his. Now, we're talking about RJ Barrett, who was a starter, and for the first 2 games was a liability. He comes into game 3, puts up 19 points, shoots 66% from the floor, and they win by 20. And then they win the next game by 9 with him scoring 26, shooting 50% from the floor. And in the last game, shooting 53.8% from the field, they win by 11. They also played great defense in each of these last 3 games. So RJ Barrett go out here in the first 2 games shooting under like 25% from the floor was pitiful, and he was a starter. That's why I recommended, if RJ Barrett is still going to have this tendency of playing very, very poorly in these playoffs, to sub him out for a guy, like you said, Obi Toppin, or if you want to go smaller and more offensively, you can go to Emmanuel Quickly. And besides, here's another thing. Their starting defensive guard, Quentin Grimes, he was out for the last 2 games due to some injury, and they came in and played phenomenal defense. Obi Toppin stepped it up on defense. Emmanuel Quickly had a couple good shooting nights in the last couple games. Players stepped up, filled in their roles, and lo and behold, you close it out 3 straight games. 2 on, 2 at home, and then the last one on the road at Cleveland. You win.
Mitchell Robinson, you didn't mention him, had 18 rebounds in the last game.
Oh, and also...
they out-rebounded them by 18.
In the
48 to 30.
In the last game, there were many putbacks Mitchell Robinson had that was very crucial. He would stay by the rim and just tap it back
points
in.
Too.
What happened in this last game was actually incredible. Darius Garland, 21 points. Donovan Mitchell, 28 points. Didn't really matter. It didn't really matter at all. Karis LeVert had 17. So this team, that was the number 1 defensive team, goes into this
The Knicks scoring
game
was much better
and got
balanced.
outperformed on defense.
The Knicks scoring was better balanced. Look at all the scoring they had.
Multiple players in double digits.
Barrett had 21. Randall 13. Mitchell Robinson 13.
That's with Julius Randle getting hurt as well.
Yeah, right. And Brunson 23. Quickly 19 and Toppin 12.
Yeah.
Really good.
Multiple players in double digits. That's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players in double digits compared to Cleveland, who had only 4 in double digits.
And plus, Mitchell Robinson, where was he in the 4th quarter? He was passing. They get in the ball and he'd pass it. I was surprised. I thought he would really try to take it to them. You know, he's a stud.
He did have 6 points in the 4th quarter. He shot
6 points. I mean, that's nothing.
He had 5 rebounds, so though that was very clutch. He was passing. He had no assist as well, so that's a little bit funny. But I think with the way the Knicks played, I mean, I'm incredibly impressed with the way they just shut down the number 1 defense, slowed Donovan Mitchell and this offensive team down. I mean, it was really incredible. Now they're going up against a Heat team who just upset the Bucks. We're going to talk about that in the next topic after our break here. But what they did was incredible. And now they're going to face the Heat with Jimmy Butler playing like he's Michael Jordan 2.0 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But 56 performance followed up by another 40-point performance, outscoring Giannis, and then hitting a crazy shot. We're going to talk about a crazy shot at the end of regulation in that game. It was an insane. I mean, I think someone in my comment section I was talking to earlier today said Knicks in 5. I'm going to say Knicks in 6 to be a little bit more conservative here.
I got Knicks in 6.
But I mean, the way the Knicks have been playing,
We should go to the game on Sunday.
I'm perfectly fine with that. But I mean, it looks really good. Honestly, if you think about it, the Bucks were probably the biggest competition for the Knicks. They are not scared of the Celtics. In fact, they beat them 3-1, I believe, this year. They're not afraid of them. I think they could do a number on the 76ers. This may be the Knicks' best shot at getting to the finals with Milwaukee out.
Yeah.
Honestly. And now,
I'm so surprised Milwaukee came up so small.
it was weird. We're going to talk about our next topic. But I do want to take a break here. But coming up, we do discuss Milwaukee and the Heat, how the Heat upset Milwaukee. We talk about Giannis's comment to a reporter in the postgame. But also, we give our reaction to the first round picks in the NFL draft that happened last night, as well as we make our picks for round 2 of the NBA playoffs. We discuss that right after this.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify.
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
Or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe
Interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.
You have a lot to say. Maybe you've thought, I should start a podcast. Meet Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast ever. It's a powerful mobile app and web tool that lets you record a podcast anywhere and distribute it everywhere. It's great whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. And it's 100% free. You can record your show straight into Anchor on your phone, iPad, or the web, using any mic you want. Record alone or with friends or co-hosts anywhere in the world. You can add background music and transitions, and your listeners can send you voice messages that you can incorporate right into your next episode. If you want to produce your show using another app, you can upload your own audio directly from web or mobile, and still take advantage of Anchor's totally free podcast hosting. Once your podcast is ready to publish, Anchor can automatically distribute it to every major podcast platform. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, so your listeners can hear your show wherever they want. And on the web, you can see detailed analytics about how people are listening. Plus, you'll get a great-looking profile page where anyone can listen to your podcast or subscribe to it. And if you want to ask your audience to support your work, Anchor makes it easy to collect monthly payments from the people who love your podcast and want to see it grow. You really don't need a recording studio, expensive equipment, or a bunch of technical knowledge to deal with a podcast feed. Just get started and join the diverse community of podcasters already on Anchor. We can't wait to hear your podcast.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic. We're talking about the Heat, how they upset the Milwaukee Bucks in only 5 games, which was incredibly impressive. Based off how the series turned out and how Jimmy Butler absolutely went to town in the last 2 games, showed up, became playoff Butler again. It was absolutely incredible. I want to know, do you think that this season, I'm going to get to Giannis's quote in just a couple seconds here as I bring it up, but I want to know, do you think that Milwaukee season, because Giannis doesn't think it's a failure, do you think ultimately that this season for the Bucks was an absolute failure?
Well, they did make the playoffs, but I do think it's a failure because they expected to go to the finals.
Right.
Right? So I think this series, they underestimated Miami. They were overconfident. And I think that's a coaching issue. I think the coaches, I don't know what they were saying to the players, but they weren't ready to play. And game 1, Giannis got hurt.
Right.
But, the Miami, give them a lot of credit, man. They didn't have the weapons that Milwaukee has. They were undersized compared to Milwaukee. Look at the size Milwaukee has with Portis and Giannis and who's our other big guy?
They got Ingles, they got Bobby Portis, Giannis, Brook Lopez.
Brook Lopez, right? Brook Lopez is a very good basketball player, I must say. And they lost. And they have Drew Holiday, too.
Right.
I mean, he's a very good guard. They had a lot of talent on that team. How did they lose to Miami? I don't get it. I don't get it.
I do want to play this clip here.
Okay.
This was Giannis post game when asked whether or not the Bucks season was an absolute failure. This is what he had to say. Oh, do we got the clip up? No, it does not look like we had the clip. So let's bring it back here. I don't know why the clip isn't playing, but basically Giannis ripped the reporter for how bad the season was, saying how bad of a question it will be. He goes in to say Michael Jordan played 15 years, only won 6 finals, so those other 9 years, were they a failure? No. So, I mean, I wish I actually had the clip up. Maybe I'll try to fix it, but...
Try it again, see if you can
I'll get into it, but I do want to say this about I want to talk about Giannis and how the season was. I do think it is a failure. When you have championship aspirations and you lose in the first round of the playoffs because you were looking too far ahead, yeah, that's a failure.
Particularly to a team who lost their first play-in game.
Right.
Right?
Right. I don't understand. But also, I will say this. He said there's no such thing as failure in sports. I think you could look at a lot of moments in sports that were failures. Let's start with this one. Now, this is not the same sport, but we talk about the Indianapolis Colts blowing a 33-point lead against the Vikings last year. That was a failure. We talk about the Patriots losing to Nick Foles in the Super Bowl. That was a failure. The Giants beating the undefeated Patriots. That was a failure. Because you don't get to the ultimate goal. Every time you don't get to your goal that you aspired for, it's technically a failure. When you start from zero again, when you start from zero again, when you start from zero again, when you get hard reset,
sometimes you
lose. You're done.
Sometimes you set a stretch goal that you don't think you can reach.
But
right?
this team has made the finals.
And if you get close to it, then even though you didn't reach your goal, it's a success.
If Aaron Rodgers does not,
I would say that's not true for Milwaukee because they clearly were a championship contender.
If Aaron,
and they lost to a team who lost their first play-in game,
right,
and a team that they were dominant in terms of size,
right.
I just don't. I don't know. Their coaching. I think they should have gone down low more. They could have beat the Miami up more on the down low with the and not shot so many threes. I don't know. I'm perplexed by it how they managed to lose that series 4-1, huh? Yeah, that's amazing.
It was pretty bad, but I mean, when you start like the thing is, when you start from zero, like if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets and what would you say the aspiration is? The Super Bowl or the playoffs? Where are your standards? Because the Bucks with that team has already won a finals.
I think with the Jets, it's got to be the Super Bowl because Aaron Rodgers is he's an old guy.
If the Jets don't make and win the Super Bowl, if the Jets don't win and make the Super Bowl, is that a failure? Is getting Aaron Rodgers a complete waste of time and a failure?
I'd say in that case it's not because it's a stretch. It's a stretch goal to get to the Super Bowl. It's a stretch goal. If they went deep into the playoffs and lost the AFC Championship game by a close score, then they wouldn't say the season was a failure because they didn't even make the playoffs last year, right? But if they don't get to the playoffs, that's total failure. If they don't win a playoff game, I think that's a failure too. If they don't win the Super Bowl, well, and they got close, then I think it's not a failure.
Would you say the Patriots, since Brady left, have been failures? Since Brady left? I would say yes, because you won the championship.
They got the playoffs once.
They got to the playoffs once, but you're saying you were winning championships. The Bucks have won a championship just, 2 years ago?
Well, I'd say the Patriots have to do better this year, and it's going to be very hard for them because their division's even tougher now. Even tougher. And they didn't really do much in the offseason to at least yet to pick up anybody that's make a major difference. Maybe their draft choices will be, all world. Maybe this cornerback they picked, who I think was very highly regarded, I thought was going to go higher in the draft, and he did. Maybe he's a guy that's really going to be a shutdown guy. I don't know. We'll see.
And I know I'll be using football context, but how about we use a basketball one? Nikola Jokic was a 2-time MVP. He could have been 3-time, depending on what the voters think this year, even though it looks like Embiid. I think the Nuggets have been an absolute failure. Because when you get to the playoffs, you don't do anything. You don't do anything.
I think they're going to make it
You
to
don't
the next
show up.
round. I think they'll be in the next round.
Well, they are in the next round.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you were a back-to-back MVP, a 2-time MVP. You could have been a 3-time MVP, including this year. What do you have to show for it? That's called being a failure. When technically you have the best player in the NBA, which is the MVP, the most valuable player, and you don't do anything with it.
Basketball is a team sport too. You got to have more than one guy.
It depends on how good you are.
Oh, come on. You got to have more than one guy. Michael Jordan never won when it was just him.
LeBron James made it to an NBA Finals carrying bums.
No, but he had Kyrie Irving.
2018, 2019.
Yeah, that's true.
Or was it 2017?
They didn't win, though.
2018?
They didn't win it.
They made it, though.
Yeah.
You can't, Jokic is, first of all, Jokic is not carrying bums. He's not carrying, all-time superstars. But Jamal Murray in the playoffs has dropped 40, 30. Michael Porter Jr. is nothing to laugh at. Aaron Gordon gives you 16 and 6. These aren't terrible players. And they're not really doing anything. So,
well, we'll see how they do against the Suns. That's the ultimate challenge, I think, because I see them making the finals.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for Jokic. But then again, Suns are top heavy. You go outside of Booker and Ayton and Paul and Durant.
I think it will be tougher for the Suns than it was against the Clippers because the Clippers are all banged up.
Right. I think it will be much more difficult versus Jokic because, hey, Jamal Murray in the playoffs can ball. Michael Porter has his moments. Jokic is Jokic. He could have been a 3-time MVP this year. We'll have to see, but it looks like it's Embiid. So I think it's going to be more difficult. We're going to get into our picks a little bit later, but I'm going with your season was a failure, and it was actually up to you because you guys were focused on the finals. You weren't even worried about the first round of the series, and you showed for it.
It's a coaching issue.
Giannis also, when you missed 13 free throws.
Yeah, he got hurt there in the first game. Maybe his
He
injury
played
lingered.
2 games and a quarter in the series. 2 games and a quarter.
Yeah, so that was an issue too.
Yeah, but even in the first game, that first quarter, you were still losing pretty bad.
He had 38 points and 20 rebounds in the last game there.
Yeah, but look at the free throws. The free throws was the big difference.
Yeah, and
there.
I would say
You
how
don't
many
mi-
games?
You don't miss 13
How
free
many
throws.
games is
you win the game.
How many games is a player going to score 56 points? Not very often.
Hey,
right?
Jimmy Butler went.
He did it. They won that game because of him.
Big time.
And he was just unconscious there near the end. He couldn't miss. So that isn't going to happen every game. So there was maybe a little bit of bad
you followed
luck.
the 56 with another 40-point
That's
game.
not
in this
bad.
Game.
He's a great player. I agree.
And what are the Knicks going to do about Jimmy Butler? Are they going to do the Donovan Mitchell thing? Like I've been saying, let him score as many points. Just don't get Caleb Martin or Gabe Vincent or Kevin Love going.
I would say that the Knicks will do a better job against Jimmy Butler than Milwaukee did. That wouldn't be too hard, though, right? One game 56 and the next game 42. But I think they will do better because they have pretty good defense. I think Tom Thibodeau will have a scheme. I think they'll do well against Jimmy Butler.
You bring up a coaching issue, or at least the coaching situation that happened in this Bucks series. I think I agree with you because I'm thinking about it. When Drew Holiday was 1-on-1 matched up with Jimmy Butler, I don't think they double teamed Butler at all. Because I think I think was it Mike Budenholzer? He had so much faith in his defensive guard to be able to stop Jimmy Butler and maybe not to hurt his ego, bringing over an extra player to help him. I think ultimately that's what that was a big problem. You want to hurt Drew Holiday's ego. So he said, "Hey, you're our best defender at the guard position."
You can't be that way as a coach. You've got to do the right thing no matter who it is.
And I think ultimately, you couldn't slow down Jimmy Butler. It didn't look like you tried to double team him all that often. And you know what? You got burned at the end.
Yeah.
56 points followed up by another 40-point game. So it was incredible what Jimmy Butler did. Now you're going up against the Knicks. I think the Knicks, I agree with you. They'll play better defense than the Bucks did against Jimmy Butler. But it's a question of if anyone else gets going, will Jalen Brunson be hot? Will RJ Barrett make shots? Will Obi Toppin be good? Will Emmanuel Quickley perform? Because Emmanuel Quickley, a large part of the Cavs series was pretty cold. He had one warm game, but the rest of them were pretty cold.
He had 19 points in the last game.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is, how hot will that team be offensively? Because if you play defense and you're not slowing down Jimmy Butler, let's just say per chance, and you have Gabe Vincent or Robinson hitting for some reason, all of a sudden he had a reemergence of hitting threes again. He shoots and catch shoots threes, a bunch of them, 3 of them, 4 of them, so you're at 9, 12 points. will the other players allow you to keep up with them? Will Obi Toppin make shots? RJ Barrett make shots? Because if you're down on the Heat, Jimmy Butler's going to, explode. He's going to go crazy.
I think the Knicks will play well in this series.
I agree with you.
They're at home. They have the home court advantage. They're bigger.
Yeah.
They're bigger. They're a better defensive team.
They're younger and quicker.
They can play. They have a bunch of rotations and chemistry that allow them to excel even when one of their great players is not in there.
Right.
So I'm pretty impressed with them.
The Miami Heat are the 4th oldest team in the NBA. Now the Bucks are the oldest team in the NBA. The New York Knicks, according to this website, are one of the youngest teams in the NBA. And honestly, the age showed from the Heat in that play-in game. They got out-rebounded by the Hawks, who are a much younger team, even a younger team than the Knicks. Now, can the Knicks with Mitchell Robinson, I think Mitchell Robinson, I said RJ Barrett's the X factor in the Cleveland series. I think Mitchell Robinson will be the X factor in this Miami series. Because if you can get rebounds, create those second chance points, keep the offense on instead of transitioning back to defense and having to guard Jimmy Butler or Kevin Love shooting threes. You could make jokes about his age.
I think maybe Miami has the advantage at center with Bam Adebayo. Right?
He's not a great offensive player. That's the problem.
He scored quite a few points in the last series.
He has his moments, but there are times where he goes ice cold. Like in the playing game, he couldn't hit a shot.
Mitchell Robinson is mostly a defensive player and a rebounder.
That's what I'm saying. Can he rebound to create those second
chance points?
And the other guy, Hartenstein, yeah.
Hartenstein. I don't. He's not that good. Personally, I don't think.
You don't think so?
No,
I mean,
he's not. He can't shoot.
Right.
And
he's a rebounder.
And he fumbles the ball a lot of the times. He can't hang on to it. I don't know. He's okay, but he's not as good as Adebayo.
I could definitely agree with you there, but he's a rebounder. The Knicks got a couple rebounders. Josh Hart, he is big. They just put more bodies out there. But then again, the Bucks were like the biggest team in the NBA. So, I mean, yeah, while they were big, it just so happened that, it didn't matter. The Heat still were able to win based on just pure shot making. So it's going to be interesting. But let's get into our next topic here. So last night was the draft. Anthony Richardson, the Colts drafted him at 4. The number 1 pick, the Panthers, chose Bryce Young. So I was wrong in that regard. The CJ Stroud, but according to reports, CJ Stroud may have not even been top 10. The Texans smartly drafted him at 2 and also trade up to the number 3 spot to take Will Anderson, which was a huge trade. So we're going to break down a couple of these teams' drafts, and we're going to grade them accordingly. So let's begin with our first one. We got the Carolina Panthers. I'll go first. Let me just break out my grades here. They drafted Bryce Young. I personally am going to give them an A. You got the quarterback you needed. It was Andy Dalton as your starting quarterback at the moment. You already have Adam Thielen, so you already have your wide receiver 1. Now he was mainly wide receiver 2 on the Vikings while Justin Jefferson was there. Now you bring him up. Does he still have anything in the tank? You see, you got Shai Smith. I believe you have Laviska Shenault as a receiver. You needed a quarterback. You got it at number 1 with Bryce Young. It was incredibly impressive. You got your guy number 1, arguably the best quarterback in this draft, at least talent-wise, he is the best one. As an NFL-ready quarterback, Bryce Young is the best. I give them an A. What about you?
I gave him an A too. I think Bryce Young is the best quarterback in this draft, and they got him. And I think that they're going to design their offense around him, and I think that they'll have some success. The one maybe little question mark with Bryce Young is whether he's tough enough. I mean, he's not that big.
Right, size could be
maybe
an
needs
issue.
to put on a few pounds. I don't know. Muscle up a little bit more. But
I will say this. You were on this months ago. You got a little bit of hate for it because C.J. Stroud was the favorite at the time. But, hey, you were on it. You stuck with your guns here.
Yeah, I had the first 2 picks right.
After
that, I fell apart. But I got the first 2 right anyway. I gave him an A.
Yeah. You gave him an A? All right, let's go.
I think they might have made a mistake when they traded the receiver Moore away.
DJ Moore? Well,
yeah, I mean, he was a 1,000-yard receiver, right?
Yeah.
They didn't really, did they have to include him in that trade?
It did seem like the Bears, the main part of that trade was
him.
Was DJ Moore. But, hey, you got Adam Thielen, who's not a bad receiver at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe they'll draft another receiver in the third
maybe
round.
you got Tank Dell out there. He's a second round, third round prospect. Great name. So we'll see. Let's go with our next team. We're talking about the Houston Texans. I give them an A+. A+. You got a quarterback, which you needed, which was smart. You didn't do the dumb thing. You got your quarterback, C.J. Stroud, immediately. So the quarterback's done. I believe you have Robert Woods as your wide receiver 1. So you know what? Maybe we'll see how he does. He was mainly a wide receiver 2 on most teams. He was, at least for the Rams, he was. He was on the Titans, I believe, before then. He was an okay receiver for him. Now you go over to the Texans. You got C.J. Stroud. Not bad. But then, I can't believe I saw this in a mock draft. Someone actually nailed it. The Texans traded for the number 3 pick with the Cardinals and got Will Anderson, who is arguably, on the big board, the number 1 player in this draft. So you got the best defensive player, arguably, and in my opinion, you got the best quarterback in the draft, which was C.J. Stroud. Now you could argue between him and Bryce Young, but at least you have a top 2. You have a top 2 quarterback, and you have the best defensive player. I got to give him an A+ for this draft so far in the first round.
I gave them an A+ as well. I think that they gave up quite a bit to move up to get Anderson,
Right?
but they've got the marquee players. These guys, 2 guys, C.J. Stroud and Anderson, could be marquee players in the NFL for the next 10 years or so.
Right.
Right? And the one's on offense and one on defense. So they got leadership. They gave up quite a bit for it to move up to get Anderson, but I think it was worth it.
Yeah.
And so I think the Texans, they may not do much win-loss in the next year because those guys are both rookies, but I think they've provided the foundational pieces on both offense and defense. And C.J. Stroud could have easily been the number 1 pick. So they got an outstanding quarterback prospect there.
Right. And I think D'Amico Ryans, a defensive head coach, a former linebacker for the Texans, he gets the best defensive player in the draft. I could see Will Anderson being an instant success on defense. And C.J. Stroud, we'll see how he develops under the Texans, who obviously don't have a great system because they've been a bad team since really their start. They had a few good years with Deshaun Watson. They made it to the playoffs a couple times, won the division a couple times, but in the majority of the Houston Texans' tenure in the NFL, they haven't been a very good team, and now they look like they're back on that bad streak. Can C.J. Stroud flip the script? I hope he can, because I think C.J. Stroud's a really good quarterback. Did a number on Georgia, who is arguably the best defense. So, I mean, good job, good pickup for the Texans. Smart going with the quarterback. I think it was a great move to move up to get Will Anderson. The Cardinals were rumored to be trying to trade back, and they did. We're going to talk about them right now, actually. Houston Texans, we both give them an A+.
Yeah.
The Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to give them a B+, because they did something weird. They traded back and then traded up. To me, that made
I
no
think
sense.
that made no sense at all. And they cost them. They gave up draft picks to do that.
Right. And
that was a mistake.
I don't understand
I don't know
it.
what they were thinking about.
So my B+ is you got arguably the best tackle in the draft, but he could have been there at 12.
Yeah.
He could have been there at 12. Instead, you moved up to 6 to get him. So, yeah, I'll give you a B+ for getting the guy who's the best player at his position in this draft, but you didn't. I don't think you needed to move up. Now the Bears went offensive tackle, or they went. I believe they got Darnell Wright, who's a right tackle. Even then, if the Bears would have drafted, if they would have drafted Paris Johnson at the number 9 spot or the number 10 spot because they moved back, the Eagles moved up, you still could have had Peter Skoronski, or you could have had Broderick Jones. You could have had even Darnell Wright would have been there.
Yeah.
You still would have had a great offensive lineman.
Yeah.
But you moved up to number 6. You gave up more than you needed.
You gave up a second rounder.
You gave up more than you probably needed to. And a guy that may have been there at 12, you got the guy, but you spent too much to get him, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so I gave him a B, but I think I should have given him a lower grade than that. So
Really?
Yeah, because I think that the moving around in the draft like that when they really didn't need to was a mistake. They picked up quite a bit when they traded down their third pick down to the Texans, right? So they picked up some, but they sacrificed a second rounder to just move around. When you're right, there were plenty of offensive linemen in there that were high quality that they could have had. To think they had to jump up there and get that guy at number 6. I don't think they had a very good strategy. I don't think it was a very good strategy.
I agree with you. Let's go with the next one. Our team, the New England Patriots. I will say this before we jump into the pick. They did the exact thing they normally do. They did actually 2 things that they normally do, except the less severe version of it. Belichick traded back. He normally trades out of the first round. He did trade back to 17 and actually screwed over the Jets because the Steelers took Broderick Jones at the number 14 spot, Jets at number 15. And they got a guy who was a top 10 pick, arguably the number 1 cornerback, Christian Gonzalez at 17. So for that reason, I don't love it. So that I nailed the pick. They got a defensive back. Hey, if I knew Christian Gonzalez would be available at 17, I wouldn't have picked Joey Porter at 17. I would have picked Christian Gonzalez. So they got a DB, and they moved back in the draft, but I would have preferred offensive. That's why I gave them an A-. They got an A. They're in the A range because they got an absolute steal at the cornerback position.
No.
We got a guy who's 6'1", nearly 200 pounds, an extreme ball hawk. The problem is he's handsy. You're not going to get away with that in the NFL. But you have an extremely smart cornerback.
He's a big one for a change. You know?
He's 6'1" compared to the 5'10", 5'9" cornerbacks. And that was one of my things I said. The Patriots have lean, small backs that get bodied by guys named like Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. You just look at the Bengals game. Marcus Jones got mossed. Jonathan Jones couldn't keep up. You have a great cornerback in Christian Gonzalez now. Great pickup by the Patriots, but the offense was the problem last year. You had JSN right there for the taking. You even had Jordan Addison for the taking. You had every receiver you had him right there. And you did the normal Belichick thing and get a cornerback. You got to steal with Christian Gonzalez. That's why you're in the A range.
And you got a 4th-round pick, too.
And you also got a 4th-round pick. I demerit you for not capitalizing on your need, which is offensive number 1 receiver-worthy talent. You got an A- from me.
Okay, I give him an A because they picked what they thought was the best player available. And I think he was because I had him going in the top 6.
Right.
And he fell all the way to them at 17. And you had to take him. I think he was the guy you had to take. And given that their defense is very, very important to them, it's the offense is not up to the standard of the defense on the Patriots, and they like the defense a lot, and they have great schemes on defense. Having the best players on defense is going to be very important for the Patriots. So I think taking Gonzalez there and cleverly dropping down 3 spots to prevent the Jets from getting the player that they really wanted and picking up a 4th-rounder to boot and still getting that guy, that's an A.
Hey, I'll say this. Belichick screwed the Jets over.
He did, yeah.
The one hole they had was on the offensive line. And they traded with the Steelers to get the last elite level offensive lineman. And the Jets, we're going to talk about them in 2 picks from now. They went up to 30 seconds remaining on the clock before they made a pick. But I want to talk about this team.
They got surprised. They weren't ready.
They were not ready. The Detroit Lions. I'm giving them a C+ for this pick because I have it here. They got running back Jahmyr Gibbs, and they also have Jack Campbell, a linebacker. I want to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs for a second. Now, originally, this pick made no sense because you had DeAndre Swift. Now the report came out, now that they're fielding calls to try to move DeAndre Swift. But you traded or you drafted a guy who was a 2nd-round prospect at the number 12 pick. Now, you pick early in the 2nd round, you could get Jahmyr Gibbs in the 2nd round. So you wasted a perfect opportunity to get a position you needed to get. A cornerback. You could have gotten Christian Gonzalez at 12. Every single one of your main cornerbacks and safeties, when targeted to, quarterbacks had 100-plus passer rating. You got cooked as a quarterback. You had the 32nd ranked defense, and your number 1 pick is a 2nd-round running back. The first pick you made in the draft was a 2nd-round running back. That's a bad pick. And then you go up with a linebacker. Once again, you don't really need linebackers and defensive line. You need guys who can stop wide receivers. Now you have C.J. Gardner-Johnson as a safety. Maybe safety's not what you need. Brian Branch was available. He still is available. You could have had Christian Gonzalez. You could have had Joey Porter. Do I have who's still remaining on the board from our picks? Yeah, I just have the Joey Porter and Brian Branch, the only 2 defensive backs I had left on my picks. But you need a defense. You go with a second-round running back as your first pick. Now, I understand you might move DeAndre Swift. You also have David Montgomery signed to a big deal. You had an opportunity to sign more defensive guys and still have a chance to get Jahmyr Gibbs early in the second round. I give you a C+.
I give him a B+. I thought that picking up those 2 guys, one on offense and one on defense, was good. And they traded down and they picked up a second rounder, so they've got an extra round pick in the second round. I think Gibbs is a very good running back. He's the second best running back in the draft. The best one went before him, so he wasn't there. So they picked who they thought was the next best running back, who probably is the next best running back, and they locked him up. So he could have been somebody else could have picked him up. That was pretty high up in the draft when they took him. He could have been gone later on. You say late first round, early second round. Well, he might have been gone then. They wouldn't have gotten a running back. And if they want to get off of Swift, they got to get somebody that they think is high quality talent. So
I'll give you that.
Yeah, and I think the defense, they need help in a lot of places on that defense. It was horrible last year, right?
Yeah.
So getting that linebacker, who is a very good one, in the first round, I gave him a B+.
I think that's fair. Let's get into the Jets pick. The New York Jets, they drafted a guy who I had going 30th to the Eagles as sort of a depth pick, Will McDonald IV at number 15. I give them a C.
Yeah.
You didn't need anyone on the defensive line. Your defensive line is stacked. Look at who's there. Even if you went receiver at this point with JSN, that would have been good. You also have a tight end issue that you could use because you have Uzama, who came from the Bengals, and I'm blanking on Conklin. You also have Conklin. You had a chance to get Kincaid and Michael Mayer, both 2 great tight ends, phenomenal tight ends. Arguably, Kincaid looks Travis Kelce-esque. And you go all the way down to like the 32nd mark in the pick and nervously draft Will McDonald, an edge rusher. I believe he was the 10th ranked edge rusher in the draft.
They got surprised.
This is a bad pick. I give them a C.
They didn't expect that to happen. They didn't expect that the Patriots would trade down and the Steelers would take Broderick Jones.
I think they penciled in whoever the best offensive lineman would be. And then when they saw Broderick Jones go, and then they were afraid to take, I forgot who the other Anton Harrison was the next offensive lineman pick. They said, he's too low for us. We can't pick him. I think they needed to dig deep on who they wanted. This was probably, honestly, this could have been a second, third round pick for the Jets that they needed to move up, and they were trying to
makes
feel.
You wonder why they picked McDonald though. He was a low first rounder at best, right?
I had him going 30th as a depth pick for the Eagles, someone they didn't necessarily need.
Yeah.
But since we couldn't trade out, by the way, I'm surprised the Eagles actually used this pick. They got Nolan Smith, which was an absolute steal for him. I just think it was I don't think he's going to start for the Jets at all. Unless he subs in every once in a while, but he's not going to be on the field during the first defensive snap. But what do you give the Jets as a draft grade for Will McDonald IV?
I gave C+.
Okay.
I didn't think it was the worst thing. The guy could be. He was. You had him in the first round.
I had him going 30th. Yeah.
So he's a top flight player. So that defense is going to be even better, right? They have a very good defense already.
They had the number 4 defense last year.
So. This only gives them more depth there. So I don't think it was a bad pick. I would say Aaron Rodgers looks at it and say, hey, come on. How about that offensive lineman? I really would like to have that, particularly given that the guy that they drafted a couple of years ago keeps getting hurt.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't think it was they'll probably be trying to do better this time around.
Right. No, I definitely think so. Let's go with our next team and the final team of our draft grades, the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to give them a B. Now, they picked arguably the best players at the positions that they were in. They picked Devin Witherspoon as a quarterback at pick 5, and then in pick 20, they got Jackson Smith and Jigba, a wide receiver. So they got the best players at their positions, arguably. The problem is, the reason why this isn't an A pick for me is they didn't need them. They just drafted in the last draft 2 very good defensive backs, one of which I believe he was right up there for defensive rookie of the year, Tariq Woolen. I think he led rookies in interceptions. He may have led the league in interceptions. He's a great cornerback. You didn't need to add another cornerback, but you did. Now this could be a little bit of bias because I had them picking Tyree Wilson at 5, and I wanted JSN. However, I just don't think the Seahawks need these players. You could have gone edge. You could have gone with another offensive lineman, maybe. You had opportunities to draft players that you needed, holes you had to fill. Even a tight end you could have drafted. But instead you went with JSN, who's the best receiver in the draft, and you went with Devon Witherspoon, arguably between him and Christian Gonzalez, even though Christian Gonzalez fell away to 17. You didn't need the players, but you drafted the best players at their positions, arguably. So yeah, you get a B. Like fit-wise, I would give you like a C+ to a C, truthfully. Yeah. But what do you give the Seahawks as a grade?
I gave him an A+.
What? Why an A+?
Well, I think that, as you said, they drafted the best players available, although I think Gonzalez might be a little, at least equal, maybe a little better than Witherspoon. But you drafted the best players that were available at the time you picked, and it gives you depth, right? Witherspoon's going to be that, and there's competition there to get into a regular rotation there on the defense. So I thought that was good, and I like and I agree with you that this next year they probably don't need an elite wide receiver because they have Metcalf and Lockett, but Metcalf's going to be a free agent probably the following year, right? Unless they're trying to lock him up. Yeah, well, we'll see. But if they may not have to if JSN really comes up and plays to be a superstar, right? And Lockett's getting older. So maybe they looked at it as not so urgent for next year, but the years beyond that, right?
I don't think this would be a DK Metcalf replacement as much as it would be a Lockett replacement. This could be a Tyler Lockett replacement. I think they will give DK the big contract.
They should. He's an elite receiver.
I agree with you then. Let's go with our biggest winners and losers. My biggest winner is the Houston Texans. You get arguably the best quarterback, in my opinion. I think CJ Stroud will be a little bit better than Bryce Young, but he's a top 2 quarterback regardless. You get a top 2 quarterback and you get the best defensive player. Great moves by the Texans. The Texans are my biggest winner. The biggest loser is the Detroit Lions. You didn't really fill in your needs. You overdrafted the running back that you probably could have gotten in the second round. You drafted very early on. Not many teams need a running back in this first round, so you could have gotten him early on. The Steelers seem like they're going to trade away the 32 pick. Teams have been rapidly calling them today about that 32nd pick that they may have to trade for. So I don't think that people are going to be trading up to go get a running back. It could be team like Tennessee was rumored to be trading up. Could they be going for Will Levis or Hendon Hooker? Maybe that could be. I don't think I see teams moving up to get Jahmyr Gibbs in the second round. That's me personally. You overdrafted for him. You got arguably the best graded linebacker in Jack Campbell at 18, but there were more edge rushers. There were cornerbacks that you could have gotten there. I just think this is not the best draft for you. We'll see how they perform. Your defense was the problem. You should have fixed the problem first, and then get your not really needs, but you could get some people that you could have used, like more running backs maybe. If you wanted to get off Swift, you didn't fill in the holes. If you drafted some decent players, you overdrafted Jahmyr Gibbs. You're the biggest loser so far in the first round for me. Now, your biggest winners and losers.
My biggest winner is the Texans. I agree with everything you said. I think they got 2 potential future stars, and they did give up quite a bit to get Anderson, but I think it's worth it.
Right.
So those are foundational players. May not prove out next year, but I think in the future, if they can build around those 2 guys on both offense and defense, they're going to be a contender going forward. So I thought they were the biggest winners. I thought the biggest loser, and I think I gave the Cardinals too high a grade when we were looking at them individually. I should have given them a lower grade. I've got the Cardinals as the biggest loser. They could have had Anderson, right? With the number 3 pick, he was there. They could have picked him. Instead, they traded down. Then they traded back up. They wound up losing a pick, right? They gave up a second rounder to trade back up. And what they wind up with? They wound up with
Paris Johnson.
Yeah.
He would have been there at 12.
Yeah.
He probably could have been there at 12.
Yeah. So I thought they were the biggest loser.
I think that's fair. The big shock was Will Levis falling out of the first round.
Yeah, I think he'll go pretty early tonight.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know. So first of all, he's not going back for round 2. He's not going to attend the draft in round 2. It was. I felt bad for him.
He was definitely upset.
The camera kept showing him, and he didn't look
you
happy.
know what? The Colts may regret not picking him. We'll see.
It's a little bit weird though. Richardson was the rawest quarterback. He played the least amount of NFL games, or least amount of college games. He played like 22 games compared to Will Levis, who played most of his college career. Yeah. Will Levis had the better stats. It could be that
it's a lot like the bet San Francisco made.
Right.
And look what happened to them.
Except Anthony Richardson, I think, has played. Played a little bit more than Trey Lance did.
Yeah,
but
similar, very similar.
It's very similar. A first-year head coach needs to then develop him. I think they may have thought, hey, we could fix Richardson. I don't think we could fix Levis. I think it's going to be telling. If Levis doesn't go to a team maybe like the Rams, who could use a backup quarterback, maybe, but I don't know why you would you might not spend a second rounder on a backup quarterback. If Tennessee, if they don't get a quarterback, we'll see what they do there. Hey, there's some opportunities here. There's some teams early in the second round. If they don't pick Will Levis, I could see him. There's a chance he falls out of the second round as well. And I think that would be great.
I'd be surprised if he gets out of the second round.
I think there was like a 96% chance that Levis would be picked in the first round, something like that. So and he fell the way. Let's get into our last topic. Let's try to breeze by this right now. We're picking our second round picks now. The first round technically could end tonight, and that's the way we're doing it. You're sticking with your Kings in 7 pick. I have changed my pick for that series because I picked Kings in 5. I'm wrong. I got to go with now what feels right. Personally, what feels right. And I did tell you, I may have said it on air or off air, I'm going to start the Eastern Conference, but I do want to say this before we jump in, is I told you off air, but it may have been on the show, that if the Warriors beat the Kings in Game 3 without Draymond, I could see them sweeping the rest of the series. I don't know if you remember that. I remember that, and it looks like they're about to do that. But let's start with the East. I picked the Bulls, first of all, to be the 8th seed. I was wrong there. The Heat made it in. Now the Heat beat the Bucks in 5. The Knicks beat the Cavs in 5. I'm going to have the Knicks moving on, beating the Heat in 6 games. I just think the Knicks right now are the better team. They're obviously the higher seed. Right now, they're the better defensive team. They're the better offensive team. The Knicks have been playing lights out ball so far in the playoffs. They shut down the number 1 defensive team in the NBA, outplayed them on defense, showed them up, outscored them in basically each of the games. I love the way the Knicks look. This is probably their best opportunity in a very long time to make it to the finals. And depending on who comes out of the West, maybe have the best chance to actually win the finals. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, I think the Knicks will be in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they will beat the Heat in 6 games. Jimmy Butler, he's gonna have a lot of the Knicks gonna have a lot on the plate if Jimmy Butler is gonna become Michael Jordan 2.0 again. But in this series, the Celtics they set some nerves through me.
Yeah,
I thought they'd sweep. It turned out the Sixers were able to sweep the Nets. Even without Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, my guy, Tobias Harris stepped up in that last game, scored over 25, I believe, able to sweep the Nets. The Celtics, I'm a little bit worrisome. I do think they'll win, but I think this does go 7. Joel Embiid's injury, that's the big question mark. How healthy will he be? I think you need to capitalize it. Joel Embiid is out the first 2 games. You need to win those first 2 games. Otherwise, I could see the series going very badly for the Celtics. You can't have Jason Tatum shoot 1 of 11 from 3. That ain't going to cut it. You're going to need the 2 J's, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, to put up 25 at least apiece per game here in order to really take care of the Sixers. I got the Celtics winning in 7 games, moving on. And that's going to be a great series. Knicks, Celtics, New York versus Boston. Now, this isn't the Celtics-Lakers rivalry. I think if we're just talking about the general aura of sports, Boston, New York have been going head-to-head for years at this point. Red Sox, Yankees. Now, I guess Celtics, Knicks now. You got the Jets and the Giants versus the Patriots. Great competition here. I think it's going to be a great series. And I'm going to go to my West. Now, I'm saying the Warriors win tonight. That's what I'm saying. And they move on to the second round, the semifinals of the Western Conference playoffs. And I also think the Lakers also win tonight, close out the 2 series tonight. So I'm going to pick each of them to win in 6. Let's go with the first series, Nuggets-Suns. I'll take the Suns to win in 6. I think just with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, I think they would overwhelm the Nuggets. The Nuggets have a tendency to not keep up on offense. I think personally we're going to see the Suns come out here. They are top heavy, which scares me a little bit. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, I believe, lead the NBA playoffs in minutes played. Now, KD has a tendency, his legs are very thin. He may be injury prone on his legs. We'll have to see. You play that amount of minutes. I'm a little bit nervous. I do think they get it done here. I think they may be a little gassed for the Western Conference Finals. I do think they get there in 6, and I'm picking the Warriors in 6 games. I just think the way the Warriors are playing right now, I was wrong. I'll say this right now. I was wrong about the Kings. And crazily enough, it's not what the Warriors did that will make them win the series. It's what the Kings didn't do. The Kings were a great shooting team. Multiple players, high 30% from the 3. They're shooting 20%. Kevin Huerter's a 40% 3-point shooter. He's shooting like 20% from 3. They just haven't been able to shoot the ball. Domantas Sabonis is just getting out-bodied, out-physical by 6'6" Draymond Green. It's embarrassing. I was wrong about the Kings. I'll accept that. I'll take the Warriors in 6 games to beat the Lakers here. I just think the way the Warriors are playing now, Curry's averaging over 30 a game. Wiggins is not at the peak where he could be right now. Klay Thompson isn't at the peak, and yet they're still winning games. Curry has been out of his mind in this first round. Honestly, this could have been a great Western Conference Finals, Kings-Warriors, but they played in the first round. It was a great series to watch. I think they close it out tonight. I got the Warriors in 6, beating the Lakers, who will probably beat the Grizzlies. Dylan Brooks keep yapping his mouth and then gets scared and won't even talk to the press after these losses. He's a scaredy cat. He keeps his mouth open too long. He's an idiot, truthfully. He's a trash talker and can't back it up. He's going for a breakout game. Hell, if he makes 3 threes, it could be a breakout game. So I don't even know. Truthfully, I just think the Lakers are too good. In this game tonight, Lakers-Grizzlies, I think we're going to see LeBron and Anthony Davis go to town. I'll take the Lakers to win tonight, but they will lose to the Warriors because Steph Curry's going off. I think Klay Thompson, we could see a Game 6 Klay Thompson performance in Game 6 for the Warriors to close it out. So I got Suns-Warriors for the West. I got Knicks-Celtics for my East. What about you?
Okay, well, I'm thinking that the Knicks will beat the Miami Heat for basically all the same reasons that you mentioned. I think that the Knicks have a better defense than Milwaukee, and I think they're a little bigger than the Heat. I think they can outmuscle them a little bit, and I like the chances in 6 against the Heat. On the Celtics and the 76ers, I like the Celtics, but in 7, and I'm nervous about this one. Come on, play some defense, will you? The Celtics don't play defense. They got James Harden's they're going to be playing against him, right? He takes shots from almost half court and sinks them. So, and Embiid, the MVP probably. And Doc Rivers is a coach, right? Used to be the coach of the Celtics. He would like nothing better to beat the Celtics, right? And it's a motivational thing for his team. So I think it's going to be very close. And I do think the Celtics will pull it out, mainly because they have the home court advantage. So I like the Celtics in 7. On the Western side, I like the Suns to beat Denver. Okay, I think the Suns are going to the finals. They got the team. You mentioned all their players. My God. Kevin Durant, Booker, Chris Paul, Ayton. They're loaded. And they've been playing like it, too. This series will be tougher for them, though, because the Clippers were injured. They didn't have the 2 best players for most of the series. So I think the Suns will beat the Nuggets in 6. Okay, and then I have not given up on the Kings. All right? Tonight's going to be a great game. It's going to be very hard for them to win it. I mean, the Warriors are at home. They're the defending champions. They've had a great record at home all year. The Kings, on the other hand, they can look back and say, you know what? We played great. We had our focus in the first 2 games. What happened to us? We still have a chance. Okay? We have the coach of the year. He was a coach on the Warriors for many years. He's going to motivate those guys because of that. And I think he's going to tell them, relax, just go out and play your game. And they've got some great players there. I think that they have a chance. I think they're going to pull it out tonight. And I do think that they will win at home on Sunday, and they will win. Oh, wait.
Sorry. I had to update the graph. You're good.
And then the Lakers versus the Kings. I think the Kings win that as well. And it'll be tough, too. I'm not sure the Lakers are going to make it. We'll see. But if they do, I think the Kings will win in 7.
I can't believe you still believe in the Kings. I mean, I was with the Kings in 5. After what I saw, after just the dismantle, just the falling apart of their shooting. I mean, we're
They
seeing.
still have a chance.
I mean,
And they can shoot well.
I thought this was
They
going to be.
lost their confidence. They still have a chance. Mike Brown's going to have them motivated to play tonight. He's the coach of the year.
Unanimous coach of the year as
And
well.
it's going to be a great game. What time's that game come on?
8 p.m. Yeah, 8 p.m.
Okay, good. I don't have to stay up till midnight watching it.
I just think the way the Kings just can't shoot the ball, I can't pick them to move on. I just can't. I think the Warriors are going to close it out tonight because the way they just fell apart shooting, I couldn't believe it. Herter's a 40% 3-point shooter and is shooting, I think, 20%.
You may be right.
I just can't believe. I thought they would bring at least some consistency from being the number 1 shooting team in NBA history. You bring it into the playoffs. You started off pretty great, going 2-0 against the defending champs. You go, Draymond's out for Game 3. Your perfect opportunity to go up 3-0, and Curry dismantles you in Game 3. And I told you before Game 3, if they win with Draymond out, they can reverse sweep the series. And it looks like they're doing exactly that. They've won 3 straight, and the Kings look horrible.
I'm looking forward to watching that game tonight.
It should be a great game. I don't think the Kings can tie it, especially with the Warriors at home. Once again, the five things that's nearly impossible to stop in the NBA: Shaq in the paint, Jordan mid-range shot, Kareem skyhook, LeBron driving to the hoop, and Curry making threes when the crowd's into it at Chase Center. Those are 5 impossible things to stop. And if Curry goes out, makes 2 threes in rapid succession, call it gone. It's impossible. The fans are going to be too into it. Curry's going to drop 30 in the game. He's been averaging over 30 points a game in the series. I can't believe it. I really thought the Kings would win in 5, and it looked great. It looked perfect. 2-0. Draymond's out for Game 3, and you lose. You couldn't handle it.
Well, they almost beat them. At Chase Center.
Harrison Barnes, a 20% 3-point shooter who was 1-5 at the time from 3.
They didn't have a good play for the last play.
Darren Fox just needed to drive, create contact with Draymond.
And
He
then
saw
fall
Draymond,
back
got
and
scared.
shoot. He should have
pushed
shot
Harrison
it.
Barnes.
He should have shot it. That was a mistake.
It was bad, but hey.
That was a very close game, Nate. I think you'll see it very close again tonight.
I will say this. The first round of the NBA playoffs have been the most exciting that I could remember.
I love
in
the
recent
first
times.
round. There's so many games. There's a game on every night, several games on every night.
There's a couple series that aren't very exciting. Like honestly, the Celtics-Hawks series was not very exciting. The Nuggets-Timberwolves series was not very exciting. Grizzlies-Lakers, because Dylan Brooks keeps yapping his mouth, that just turned into let's see how bad Dylan Brooks plays so we can clown him after the game. He's been running from the media. Post-game conferences, he doesn't even do any more in losses. Yet during wins, he keeps flapping his mouth, saying LeBron's old. I wish I could play against LeBron when he won the championships in Miami. You're getting cooked. You're shooting 1 of 7 from 3. And you're talking like, no. And then besides that, though, every other series has been great. Really, it has been great. So,
And I think these series will be very good, too. These should be very good.
I agree. So, what a great start to the NBA playoffs. What a great start to the draft. There were some weird picks in there. But we'll see what happens in round 2, which actually has already started. So, we will see. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, we will wrap it up. My name's Nathan Harvey. That's been at Stephen Harvey. Catch us Monday. I'm sure we'll do something with the NFL. More NBA news. We'll break down the beginning of round 2. But until then, we will see you Monday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch.
or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe
Interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.